Fast? No, not fast. The last class of the day. Bit tiring, but remember it's the last. After that we drill and have maybe good times. You're gonna need, yes, you're gonna need sword and masks. But yeah, not quite yet with the masks, but actually just get the masks and put them on the side so you can find them.
Si alguien tiene problemas con el inglés, la zona de traducción simultánea está aquí. ¿Vale?
Okay, so
We are
yeah, I'm
traducing.
going to translate the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just gathering everyone here.
Okay.
Speak over.
Yes.
Joder.
So the first class was look of the basics of the language of the Bolognese fencing, bodywork, how to use the blade, bit of theory, and how the juggalo largo works. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm translating on the go.
Okay. So this part is like a slice of the pie. Okay. It's not a system in the same way as the first part, but it's like a progression of how to attack opponent according to the Bolognese fencing in 3 different distances. So we're going to use the approach, the juggalo largo, to find the opponent's blade, cross the blades with them in stretta di mezzo spada, and then throw few committed attacks and exit the range. When we attack in stretta di mezzo spada, we have the option of striking, obviously, striking with this grip, or go gioco della presa for grappling and kicking and so on. So this is like a, well, bit of everything in the Bolognese fencing, but of course not comprehensively, but slice of the cake. Yeah. So we're gonna start with the same approach exercise that we did in the end of the last workshop. Okay. We're gonna do it a few times, then start to do it with partner, and most of the time when we practice, it's gonna be drilling with the partner. Okay. Yep. Make the 2 lines again, one on there and one on here. And when you do the stuff with your partner, try to take a partner who has the same size of sword that you have. Yeah. There is also my other big sword if somebody wants to practice with this. Okay, so then we start. Bottom per alta, we're going to go mano totondo into guardia di entrata. Now we can repeat this, but you guys already know how to do it. Put the left leg forward, the other leg, yep, there too, the other leg. Oh, yes, the other leg. Okay, now drop your hands, point the tip of your blade to your opponent's face, and thrust. With this, we are trying to find the blade. Okay, then we're going to throw through guardia di testa, mano totondo, sidestepping slightly. This is also to find the blade. Of course, both of these actions could be thrust to the upper body of your opponent or cut to the head. But we of course assume that the opponent is not child or drunk or something, so they will be defending themselves. Okay? Mano totondo, guardia di testa. Okay? Drop the hands, extend the thrust, get closer, throw mano totondo, side step. Yep. And here you don't want to be like this, but you want to be behind your blade. Yep. Because when we do stretta di mezzo spada stuff, we constantly have to shift because, can I use you? We never want to be like this. Too unpredictable, we want to be behind the blade. When we change sides, we want to be behind the blade. So all the time there is small shuffling. One more time. Mano totondo, drop it, thrust, throw a cut. You want to have the sword in front of your face all the time. Throw mano totondo. Yes, okay, now take a partner, maybe behind you or whatever. Take a partner. You don't have to put the mask quite yet, but you can decide when to put the mask on. If you have sense and if you can practice safely, you probably don't need the masks, at least for now. So just be smart and that will be enough. Gonzalo, can I use you as a partner? So, we already did this. We start something like this. I'm gonna provoke, step here. Now, if my opponent steps away a bit, I'm gonna try to close the distance like this. Obviously, if I thrust at your face, you're gonna want to catch it. Yep. This is Spada. Now we are in striking distance. Okay, if I want to attack from this side, the false edge side of Spada, I have options. But if I want to attack from the true edge side, okay, of course this. But if you parry it, now I have other options. So in this workshop, we're going to see what we can do in those places. Make sense? First, we're going to look at the cuts, just how to cut from this distance, how to do actions with this grip, how to do pressure stuff, and so on. But before we go into that, I'm going to show you a bit more to closing the distance with your opponent. So, let's say I've done all this here, but now if I strike and you parry, if I feel that, okay, we're a bit too far away at this moment, I can cut the leg. If it hits, good for me. If you step away, do the same, repeat until you get into the distance. So again, you just repeat the thing. But throwing the cut to the leg is a very good option of striking, of course. So if I go here, 1, 2, this, it's a bad cut to get. And for me, yep. Of course I would be laughing when I do it. So, going from here, go ahead and draw it. The tempo is really important. If I go 1, 2, if I stop here and start to do this, you will pull your leg back and stab me in the face. Yes, because how do you counter that? Like this. We don't want this, so I'm going to have to use the tempo. So I'm going to go here. 1, cut, and get the distance. Okay? So practice this first. Let's not do the repetitions, so we can save some time and energy. I'm just gonna go 1, 2, 3, and here, in this moment, turn, I can make a thread here, so you're gonna have to push it, cut, and get away. Yep. Start with this. Because we already did this part in the last section, so this is just a quick example. Now, what else we can do here? If I do the same approach, here, here. If I throw the cut to my opponent's leg, like this, you see I'm not going forward, because if I throw it here, yep, not a good idea, but it's a provocation and invitation. So, go here, this. If I stand like this, and he attacks, and if I can parry it, which is of course my plan, then it's a good idea. But if I get hit in the face immediately, it's not a good plan. Yeah. So I cannot move forward so much. I do this. Now, if Gonzalo comes forward, here, kick, and so on. Yeah? Just the one example of what we can do. Now when you practice this part, it's a good idea to put the masks on, because we're going to cut to the face. So, when I make the slow cut, here, you see I'm not moving forwards, I'm waiting, so Gonzalo has to come for me. Yeah? Okay? Go back a bit. When he comes forward, lift my blade, and try to push it across his face. If that lands, very good. But the thing is that when I do this, you have to parry it very high. And I get to go with the kick. Yeah? And with the kick, as usual, he's gonna lose some of his structure and we get to go to another technique. Yeah? So, provoke, invite, forward, kick, and so on. Yeah? Try this one for a moment, and I'll show you another example. Yeah? Put the mask on. So, I provoke, throw one with the tondo, and throw the cut to the legs. I'm going to throw it like this in the porta di ferro stretta, because if I'm like this, you will not want to come close to me. You want to take care of my tip first. But if I cut it here, this is something that is not offensive for you, but I can also go up fairly fast. So when I throw my mandito tondo, cut the leg, this is the place to go from here and out. Okay? When you do the kick, if I kick with my right leg, like so, pull back, throw a big cut, and again take the distance. But of course there are many solutions here. I can kick and keep going closer. No one choice. It depends on you. If you are bigger, it's nice to bully. If you're a bit smaller, you make the cut and take the distance, because to be smart. Another solution. So if I go the same under the tondo here. Now let's say my opponent throws a strike. It could be thrust, but it can be strike too. Yeah, like so. Because it's a good tempo for my opponent. If I do mandito tondo, you parry, go this. Now it's a very good time to strike. Yeah. So I'll go 1, 2, 3. Guardia di entrare. Switch slow. So I'm here. I'm gonna catch it here. Push the tip, but at the same time step slightly to the backward. Because if I do it on the spot, it's going to be harder to take the line for the thrust. But if I step slightly behind myself, the tip will be nicely in the middle, and I will be behind the blade. Another option would be if I'm here and you thrust or cut, step forward. And if you parry my thrust, so on. Yeah. So try this one. Porta di ferro stretta. Parry whatever is coming into guardia di entrata, not in wide stance. So you just go from here to here. This is maybe a bit more specific for the long plays, because you have the space to do this, also because we have a wider distance. But of course it will work with any length of play. Let's try this, and then we'll move on to the stretta di mezzo spada.
Okay,
Let's move on. One note about this technique before we go to the next one. So we need to keep in mind the tempo and the threat and fear when we fence. Because if I go with my provocation here, okay, here, and Gonzalo is not afraid of me doing this, he can instantly stab me in the face, but it might mean that I also cut him in the leg at the same time. And this is definitely bad for you, of course for me as well, but it's a wrong way to fence if you always get hit while you try to hit. Because the first priority of fencing like this is of course that you don't get hit. Then if this thing is true, then you try to hit your opponent, but never double. Okay? So we need to remember when we practice this kind of things that when I go to provoke, first thing he needs to do is to make sure that this doesn't happen. So if you take your leg away and then attack, sorry, did it hurt?
No.
Yeah. Then I will have the proper tempo to do this play. But we need to be very careful with basically everything we do, of course, because we don't want to roll the dice. Yeah. So the next part. Now we have done the how to enter into the distance. I've entered here. Okay. Now from this moment we have of course several opportunities to attack. The basic way would be to step under my blade and throw a cut. Yeah. It's the same step that we have already practiced and what you did with Pedro. So this. But instead of mezzo spada distance, we will always have to be under the sword. Because when I am here, okay, if I want to cut from the right side, I cannot do this because I'll get cut on the way. So I will have to do step first and then go for the cut, which leaves Gonzalo very little time to do anything else than parry. Of course he can parry, but that's a different story. So when we start to move from here, it steps first under the blade and then throw the cut and you can parry. This would be the basic strike in this situation. And if you are here on the other side, the same story. But we're not gonna practice these very basic cuts now because you probably know how to do it. So look a bit different ideas. When we are here, one thing we can do is to throw a cut to the arms. We don't throw it with the false edge because my head is too available. False edge is only for the long distance. So now when we're here, if I cut, I need to keep my hands here because if something happens, my sword will be protecting my head. Yep. So I thrust, cut, you can parry this, and then throw cut to the head. Okay? When you practice this, make always 2 repeats. Okay? The first repeat is that I go here. Now Gonzalo doesn't do anything, I can just practice where to hit. Yeah. And the second repeat is I go here, he parries, you need to move a bit, but you get the idea. First is perfect hits, next is for parrying. When you parry, if you do the thrust from this side, yep, I catch this. Now when Gonzalo goes for my arms, it would be cutting here, yep, something like this. Move a bit, drop your sword. When the next cut is coming, maybe if I don't move, it's going to be too tight and I don't have the space to make a proper good body structure behind my parry. So if you make the hit up here again. So when this cut is coming, I will also move, and if I move well, maybe I got the upper hand for the next tempo. Yep. So 2 repeats. One is just clean hits, one is with the parries. Go. Again, when we work in this distance, the tempo is important. So if I engage, I have done this. I start from guardia di entrare. If I go here, have a nice break here, and if I decide to throw ridoppio, there is something coming at my face in this moment. Okay? So obviously, when I go here, I do this, step closer, step closer. So I have to keep the opponent 1 step behind me. If I feel like I'm not ahead of my opponent, it's time to step back. Because the counters would be like this, for example. If Gonzalo goes, you throw the cut under my blade, go into guardia di entrare, and now if you make the provocation thrust, something like this. Of course there are spots for me to do the counter plays, but it's about the tempo and sensing when it's good time to do things. Now we're of course doing theory fencing, so everything works. But in actual fencing, we have to be careful and well, sense the correct moment. Now, if I do the provocation, 1, 2, and you parry, same options. Cut the hands, cut the head. And if you parry it, if I go 1, 2, the same thing from the other side. Try it only a few times to get the idea, and then we will move on. Because everybody's maybe tired. Yeah, okay. Go, thank you. Now I'm mostly dealing with the ideas, so we don't have to really repeat both sides extensively. Yeah. One note about the two-handed sword. Can I borrow your sword? So, if I'm in this situation here, the cuts can be thrown very fast with the short sword. But we have to remember that the one I'm using, the Spadancino or two-handed sword, it's very long. You cannot whip it like you can with the long sword. Okay? So the mechanics are different. Of course, it's very hard to simulate if you don't have the long sword, but at least we can try to remember it. So, for example, in this situation here, if I go for the hands here, I'm going to have to step under my blade, move behind my blade, because bringing the blade around takes definitely more time than longsword, for example. So it's a different game, different tempo and all that. But it's hard without the big, heavier sword. Now, let's do the same play, but with different idea. Throwing the ridoppio, the rising cut with true edge, is a good path into gioco della presa place. So again, if I make my way here, if I throw ridoppio, if I go like this, it's a good strike to the arms, but when I go, and you parry, no, just parry. When I go forward here, he has to parry it, but it also brings me into nice distance of gioco della presa stuff. Yeah? So now when you do the same play from here and I throw the ridoppio, I'm going to step forward, I'm going to kick with my hip, enter here, and now I have the usual choices of grabbing the blade, pointing with the pommel, okay, handle, going closer, catching the sword, and so on. Okay? Let's check the notes. Yep. So everybody, I assume that everybody knows how to do this kind of presa technique, yeah? Grab the blade, grab the hands, and so on. Yep. So we don't have to practice this maybe now. This is the next thing I show. It's a quite situational thing, but it's cool to know, and it has its uses, especially when you end up in the struggle close to your opponent. So, now, I throw this, grab it, drop my sword. I have to drop it like this, but we conserve the floors at the schools where we practice. So, grab, thumbs on the same way. Lift, pull down, and then abuse. So, from ridoppio, here, grab it, drop the blade, thumbs the same way, up, you can hold, try to resist, okay? Resist it. Go up, and down, and then more stuff. Okay, so try this one. So go, step close. Grab it, okay, don't grab it below, grab it up over now. Yep, so over, drop it, lift, and turn. leg, step this way, and I will turn with my body, not with my arms, but nice, solid structure. Yeah, okay, go. You can, every time you so if we're here, let's say I grab it, well it doesn't matter how I grab it basically, depending on the situation. But if I grab it like this, and tuck my sword here, or just drop it, but Maratson tells us to put the sword here. Now you grab the handle, so, like this. That was the swords now. But imagine that if you are in the struggle here, that it's hard to go, you cannot take the distance because your opponent is aggressive and all that. In these kind of situations, if you get a good hold of the blade, you can drop it and try to, you know, wrestle it. Because of course, when we have a duel, probably never, but back in the days too, not every time it's the purpose of the duel to chop pieces out of your opponent. Maybe you are just there to win or whatever. Of course, it's a very good show of skill if you can disarm your opponent. Yep. Yes, the next variation. What we can do into Stretteri Metsäspada. So, wait, yep. Here, throwing the ridopio here. Again, if I go close, if I keep pushing, step here, and cut the waist of my opponent. So, swords are up here, step here, and cut from the waist. Yeah? So it's a bit brutal because you're going to fall, and when you fall with the sword, it can be a bit dangerous, so be smart. But the point is that I'm going to step here with this moment. Okay? So just tackle and step through. You don't have to take your opponent down, just try the idea. So, ridopio here, keep pushing, because I don't want this to knock my head. So here, push either over the head or from the hip. If the hips touch, the takedown will work. But now, this is enough. Okay? Last shot. With the ridopio here, he has to parry strong this way. I enter this side and tackle. Yep. Go. So the last technique for today. I'll show you something first, a few things, but then we do the last thing. So, from the other side, the same solutions. If I've done this, okay? From here, we can go same takedown. Disarms, you know how to do the disarms and so on. We don't really have to look because anything works. Maratso has something like 30 plays for this distance. Some of them are like a grappling plays, kicks, throws, whatever, but anything that works, of course, works. Now, what we can also do, according to Anonymous advice, is that when I open from this side, now, if I go here, and it looks like I'm going to throw a strike, yeah? So, probably you're going to want to parry whatever is coming here. One solution is that I make a show of cut, no, point, okay? Another solution is when I go here, this way, maybe boink, maybe make the takedown. It's just the entry is the important part. So, in this moment, instead of throwing a strike, grab it, strike down, and so on. Yep. From this side, if I make the throw, make the show of the cut, if you start to parry too early, no, okay? Or I can go over, and then go with this grip. Again, if I go here. Now, if this doesn't work, if you parry, I have a lot of lever. but if you still parry it, the other side, the principle works on both sides. Yep. So the beats from Anonimo are very usable. Also Anonimo has the blade with the lugs, works on both sides. But for the last trick of today, when we enter Espada here, but we are maybe too close. Maybe my opponent doesn't want to give ground, maybe I misstep, it depends. But if you're very close like this, first thing to do, slap your opponent. And when I slap you, you're going to of course lift your blade, go with the pommel. These are setups, but of course valid strikes. But with the long handle, in this situation, if I let go, turn, use the handle. Yep. Use the handle to my right. So slap, pommel. Use the handle to the left. Yep. Of course, if my opponent has any sense, if you do it for me, so slap me in the head, pommel in the face, and now when you go over my hand, I'm not gonna stay here and scream. I'm gonna go for the, wrestling. But of course, if my opponent doesn't have time to react, it's gonna suck because your hands are going to, if you do it for me, yep, hands are going to bad place, and you're probably gonna get cut in the face a bit. So all the advice for Espada is that the one who has the fastest mind will act first. But of course, the fast mind can mean also that you wait what you're doing and then counter. But you get the idea. So the last thing to try. If you're on the true side, like this, pretty close, I'm gonna push, slap the head, and when you try to parry it, go with the pommel. This is the setup, and now my right, the pommel, grab your sword, and go here. Yeah. Last chop. Slap, pommel, turn it to the right. Yeah. Try this one. So this class was an example of how to get into the distance through Gioco Largo, what kind of choices we have in this specific situation in Espada, how to do strikes, how to do Gioco della Presa, maybe some weird throws, and so on. Of course, the actual fighting, can you do it to me? No need for mask, I think. So, go back a bit. If you attack, okay, with the whole leg. Okay, so we start here, and you throw the, okay, with this, yep, you find this. Yeah, okay, you go. And we keep going, and you parry. Okay, nice exchange. Nobody got hit. Maybe we try again. But we should practice so that not every exchange leads in somebody dead. So I should be very careful when I approach you. You should be doing the same. And if we just start to go as fast as we can, we lose the control. So you control, and then when you see your moment, then you chop and quickly take the distance. But calmly, yeah? No, not like okay, I'm not going to go into ranting about competitions, but the speed and power does not replace the safety or technique, yeah? So you go slow, throw cuts, and also when I throw cuts, every time I throw a cut, I need to protect myself. And part of this is throwing a cut that you know what kind of cut I'm throwing. But if I gain the upper hand, then I change the tempo and speed and try to land and take the distance. So the way we practice this in my group, this is just a collection of techniques from the assalto. But we have a basic framework. I think I'm going to show it to you tomorrow. With the basic cuts, basic footwork, basic counters. When you can do the basics, then you can start to find moments and windows for these more special techniques. But of course the basics are the most important thing. Because if you don't have a good grasp on the basics, you never get the chance to do anything else. And even so, basics are still the best thing to do. Any questions now?
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Bueno.